It is Friday, March 8th. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Damon Bruce, Larry Krueger, and it's a free agent Friday. We are at the start of the feeding frenzy that officially begins on Monday. Well, Larry, I guess that's the negotiating frenzy, but we know that an awful lot of negotiation is going to take place this weekend as well. Official deals can become official on Wednesday next week, but we are about to lock, load, and ready to just start shooting at this offseason for real. It's about to happen.
Yeah, no question. Patriots this morning re-signed Hunter Henry. I saw that. The Steelers are going to release Patrick Peterson. They're going to meet with Russell Wilson. The Giants are trying to meet with Russell Wilson. The Eagles are expected to make a move for a safety. They're saying they may try to jump back in on CJ Gardner-Johnson. If I were the Niners, I would try to get involved in that as well. So there's a lot going on here.
There is. And obviously we will get closer and closer towards Monday. And then on Monday, you're going to see even more names pop up when, you know, the teams make their overtures to their own free agents and their free agents say, sorry, thank you, not interested. So the list will even, you know, it'll expand and contract like an accordion here over the next few days. And you drive yourself crazy trying to track everything. So don't bother. Let Larry and I do it for you, and we'll tell you what's happening. Thank you for being here. Please hit like and subscribe. It's great to have you. This is a show that is growing on two channels that are growing, and that growth is dependent on you being here. So hit like, hit notify, and that way you won't miss a thing. Thank you so much for being here. And Larry, I mean, God, can you imagine if we had the hours in our lives back that we've spent talking about 49ers coaching problems, assistant coaches, defensive coordinators, head coaches? It never ends. So there's very little that creeps up and surprises us or catches us off guard. But just yesterday, a bit of news that no one was really anticipating broke around the 49ers coaching staff. They've hired former Raiders offensive coordinator Mick Lombardi to their coaching staff. Now, he's not been given a title. What he is going to be doing exactly, we do not know, but he has been added to Kyle Shanahan's staff, and it's not his first time working with the 49ers on Kyle Shanahan's staff. He was with the 49ers. Well, I guess it was the first time on Kyle Shanahan's staff because he was with the 49ers from 2013 to 16. 49ers Web Zone says that during his previous 4-year stint with the 49ers, he held various roles, including assistant to the head coach when he was under Jim Harbaugh. He was an offensive and defensive assistant, an offensive quality control coach. He did that for Tom Sula and Chip Kelly as well. So he was here for bad Niners. Let's see if he can be part of going back to and winning the Super Bowl version of the 49ers. He spent his last 2 seasons as the Raiders offensive coordinator when the Raiders were offensive in terms of what they were doing. He was part of the Josh McDaniels, Dave Ziegler, total clear out, everyone firing. So he wasn't there for the best of the Raiders. He was there for the worst of the Raiders, but we're not going to hold the Raiders against him. Mick Lombardi to be assigned Title X. What do you think, Krug?
Well, I don't know tons about him other than he's 35. He worked for Harbaugh. He worked for Chip. He worked for Tom Sula. He was there with the Niners then. When Shanahan took over, I think he bailed to the Jets. He's 35. He's worked for the Niners in a variety of roles and then moved on. The Niners did lose 3, members of their offensive coaching staff. Clint Kubiak, the offensive passing game coordinator, jumped to the Saints as the OC there. Anthony Lynn, who's a running back coach / assistant head coach, became the the Commanders run game coordinator.
By the way, zero, thanks, Kyle. Pleasure working with you on that goodbye press release. It looked like there might have been a little acrimony on the way out.
Between Lynn and Shanahan?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that. Well, they're old friends. I mean, they go way, way back. So who knows? But and then James Craig became the Raiders O-line coach. And, of course, we all know Mick Lombardi is the son of Michael Lombardi. So now Michael Lombardi's, hey, they're going with Mac Jones. If he says it now, we'll say, well, he's got a source from within. So now Michael Lombardi has to be heated to a little bit more in the media game because his son Mick officially is on the inside.
He might know something. Again, NFL free agency begins on March 13th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, West Coast time. So that's 5 days from now. And then on Monday at noon Eastern, so about a half an hour into our Monday wake up, Larry, we will start getting, it's amazing. How do they negotiate that contract? And it's being announced at 9:01. It's the NFL's gears grinding. So look, the 49ers began last year's free agency like coming out of the gate with a big statement, right? I mean, they basically ran to the podium to tell everyone that they were signing Javon Hargrave for an $84 million deal that no one really expected. And it was just like, oh, the Niners are coming up at free agency like that. They went out and they got a star player. Now, how that player played is not what we're even talking about here today, but they were very aggressive in free agency. Do you think, Larry, they're about to do the same? Do you think that they're going to land a name that makes everybody go, come Monday?
I kind of do. Just because I kind of think that this is their new game plan, which is, you got 20 free agents, most of them walk, like maybe 17 of the 20 walk away. And then, go sign 1 or 2 free agents, maybe 3, and have them really count, have there be one big free agent in there. Some people have speculated it's going to be Danielle Hunter. I'll always shoot for the top because that's the way I think. So heck, if Chris Jones is available, why not go sign Chris Jones? But Chris Jones is most likely going back to Kansas City, but Christian Wilkins would be a really nice defensive lineman to add. He's coming off a very productive year. He's scheme versatile. He's young. He's healthy. Christian Wilkins I could see them. I definitely think it would be another addition to their defense, and most likely their defensive front seven. Maybe it's Azeez Al-Shaair coming back. Maybe it's a trade involving DJ Jones coming back. But I definitely think the 49ers will shake it up big time at the beginning of free agency with at least one big name.
We both agree that they need more help in their interior defensive line. They need another defensive tackle, but it just feels like it's really hard to go out and make a free agent splash at the same position at premium pricing 2 years in a row. Like that kind of takes, a guy like Christian Wilkinson off the board in my mind. Like they're going to have to go mid-level free agent, if not address their interior defensive line in the draft more than they're likely to hand out another, near $100 million contract to an interior defensive lineman, right?
Well, yes and no. I mean, you typically go for in free agency whatever you value, and I think the Niners value those interior defensive linemen.
Have they overvalued it? I guess would be my question, Larry, because it didn't help when they needed it the most.
Yeah, I mean, they had a lot of big names on their D-line that they didn't get a lot from last year. So what does that mean for Gregory? What does that mean for Chase Young? What does that mean for the future of Eric Armstead? I don't know, but I do know that, I would expect either Danielle Hunter, Brian Burns, Christian Wilkins, Joey Bosa, somebody of significance, I think, will be added to this D-line. That'd be my prediction.
The biggest immediate decisions that the 49ers have to pretty much reach conclusion on this weekend, if they haven't already, Larry, is their own free agents, like who they have, who they would want to bring back. And, let's start with probably the biggest name in the room, and that's Chase Young. First of all, before we even get into price points, do you want Chase Young back?
Well, not necessarily, but then you look at the rest of the marketplace.
Right. I don't know how crucial he would be at the price point he would command. And even if a show me deal came up, is he still the right guy? I mean, he did not appoint himself cloaked in glory much of last year.
No, it was not a good year. But the question is, was he healthy? Did he understand their culture? So on and so forth. He played well in the Super Bowl. Bosa likes him. I'm sure Kasarik probably likes him. They've got to bring back somebody. I mean, you've got Gregory, Farrell, Chase Young are your three veteran defensive ends opposite Nick Bosa. Other than that, you're looking at Robert Beal, Drake Jackson, Austin Bryant, Alex Barrett, guys who are more practice squad type guys,
Right.
even behind them. So I think you need to have one guy. It seems like there's been some reports out that they like Chase Young. My guess is that they'll move off of the entire group. Chase Young, Farrell, Givens, Kinlaw, Gregory, Joseph Day, all their free agents on the D line. I would not be shocked if they were all gone.
So if you're saying goodbye to defensive linemen, again, maybe free agency comes back around. Zadarius Smith, defensive end from Cleveland. He had 5.5 sacks last year. Bryce Huff, defensive end from the New York Jets. They almost franchise tagged him, but decided not to. Probably going to approach him to re-sign him. But we all know that defensive linemen have become, I don't want to say cost prohibitive, but their actual bang for their buck, I think just got put through the ringer by the NFL. Like if we're going to downgrade running back value, I think defensive end, edge rusher, defensive line value drops a little bit based on the overly passing nature of football and the 3 and out mantra that basically every team's adopted. Like the best way to neutralize a defensive line is to get that ball out quick. And like the entire league is basically agreed, yeah, that's what we're going to do. So do you want to be spending big gobs of money at a position that can kind of be neutralized just by strategy?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, if you want to neutralize elite rush, you typically can, but then it comes down to the defense's ability to stop your short game, and if they can stop that, then they can force you into 5 and 7 step drops, and then the game. And the Niners did get a little bit of heat on Mahomes in the Super Bowl, not a ton, but a little. It's a good question. I mean, and then more than anything, I mean, the 49ers pride themselves on stopping the run, and yet they haven't done a very good job at doing that. So what then is the priority if you're going for a tackle? Is it a run defender or is it a pass rusher? I mean, clearly Hargrave was a pass rusher, but they need a run defender to go alongside.
So since we're talking line, John Feliciano is Pro Football Focus highest graded potential 49er free agent. Do you think that they bring him back, or are they ready to give the job to Burford full time? Or if they're going to be looking offensive line in the draft, is signing Feliciano a little bit of a stopgap?
Well, they love Feliciano. So, I mean, I think he's coming back. I mean, Lynch said as much.
He gave up bigger deals to join the Super Bowl shot with the Niners one year. He might do it again, right?
Yeah, I think of their free agents on offense, I would say he's probably the most likely to come back. Feliciano, he can play center. He can play either guard spot. They felt like that he graded out highly last year. They like him, and so I would imagine Feliciano will be back. Now, I think he's back more as either kind of a starter for the first part of the year because you went with some young guys in the draft, or he could be a starter at center, or he could be a backup. But I think that he'll be back in one of those roles. The rest of the offensive guys, Sam Darnold, Matt Pryor, Ross Dwelly, Ray McLeod.
I'm ready to say goodbye to every single one of those names.
Yeah, I mean, the only guys on offense I could see coming back would be like Feliciano, maybe Chris Conley, maybe Brandon Allen. I think everybody else, maybe Charlie Warner if they really decided they wanted to keep Charlie Warner, but Darnold, Dwelly, Pryor, Ray, they're probably all gone.
I'm keeping Warner. I would like to keep Charlie Warner if I were the 49ers. I thought he was key in some huge blocks that opened up big lanes in this running game this season. I'd like to see him back, especially with the threat of possibly losing Brandon Ayuk to a trade to get you better premium draft pick. You just can't lose guys who are essential blockers, I think, in the running game. So I hope he's back. Conley is the guy that another team might spend too much money on to lure away. Yes or no?
No, he's been around the block. He's been on the street. He won't get big offers.
Okay.
He'll be out there for near minimum. That'll be my guess. And he played well, so I could see him coming back. To me, there's much. If you said make predictions, I would say Conley, Feliciano, Warner, Brandon Allen, and maybe Ben Barch are back from their offense. But most of the defensive guys are all going to be gone.
So I was just about to ask you, the fact that we don't have a quarterback issue, a starting quarterback issue for the first time since 2018, it's almost foreign to go into this offseason without some sort of, who's the Niners quarterback? He's entrenched now. It's Brock Purdy. Behind him, Brandon Allen, you think so? I mean, we talked about Wilson from the Jets maybe being this year's Sam Darnold. I don't think Sam Darnold showed you anything that makes anybody in that 49er locker room think, yeah, we got to get that guy back.
Well, I mean, if you listen to Shanahan, he likes him a lot. If you listen to Purdy, he said that he was really supportive of Purdy every time he came off the field. I think Sam Darnold, did his role and did it well. I'm just kind of wondering how many years of his prime does he want to give away to, never playing? Because Brock Purdy looks like he's going to stay healthy. So that's the question. I think there's there's another name out there. What about Mac Jones? I mean, if you believe that Kyle Shanahan had a belief in Mac Jones is very available. You could probably get Mac Jones for a 6th-round pick. Would they try to bring in Mac Jones? I could see that.
I mean, at that point, I'd just rather stick with Brandon Allen, right?
Well, maybe they want Brandon Allen as the 3.
What's that?
Who's going to be Brandon Allen right now is making 3 money. He's got a and he's, do they see him? It's 2 questions. It's, do you want to draft a super cheap rookie and make Brandon Allen your 2 and give him a nice little pay increase, which may be their route? Or do you want to go after a Mac Jones, a Zach Wilson or some young veteran and keep Brandon Allen as your number 3? But I kind of get the feeling that Brandon Allen's going to stick around.
What if Michael Penix Jr. slips to the 2nd round and the Niners are looking at him? What do you do?
Well, I mean, this is another one. I brought this up the other day in a mock draft, and even my own kids were crushing me. But you know what? If you believe that Michael Penix, like I believe in Michael Penix, if you believe that Michael Penix is the best quarterback in this draft and he's there at 31, how do you not take him? I mean, how do you not take him? He just was one of the best college football players. I realize he's had some injuries at Indiana. He's a little bit older. He's transferred. He's 24. He's not 19. So there's some people that mark him down because of that. But, I mean, he was great for the Huskies and then put on a show in Indy. And he has an incredible howitzer and huge hands. And if you really think, like I do, that Michael Penix is special, then you could draft him now. That would create a hot spot for Purdy. It would create more quarterback speculation about future trades. What are you going to do with the guy? Blah, 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 blah.
You really
make the spot hot. And I don't know if they want to make the spot hot.
It feels like they finally have walked past that burning room that is quarterback controversy and to walk back into it. I mean, even if Penix is there and you do believe in him, you obviously believed in Brock Purdy enough to believe in him too. I just think I would much rather see year 3 of Brock Purdy without Brock having to look in his rear view mirror than, I mean, here's the deal. What if Penix never plays, right? What if Brock Purdy just holds Penix off, is clearly the better professional quarterback, and you got Trey Lance 2.0? Do you want that? I understand why your kids crushed you. You are a little nuts.
It's a little nuts, but let's say this, though. If my evaluation is that Penix is better than these other quarterbacks. If you could get drafting Trey Lance, using 3 number ones, and then offloading him for a 4th round draft choice, loser. But if you could get a guy at 31 and offload him for 2 1s and 2 2s because people think that he's the guy, then major winner. And nobody will have gotten more out of their 31st pick. It just depends what kind of conviction you have, how you see the quarterback room. There's some that argue you should draft a quarterback every single year. The Niners probably won't go in that direction because they've got severe needs on the defensive line. I gotta think that the defensive line, whether it be tackle, end, edge rusher, 3 technique, 1 technique, they need some defensive linemen. I mean, they badly do. So
that's the thing.
They can't look away from their defensive line. I mean, that just takes too much. That takes too much of their, too much of their money, too much of their thinking, too much of their focus to invest in the backup quarterback over the D line.
Exactly. I mean, it's go time. It's win the Super Bowl in 2024. God damn it. That's the mandate. That's anything other than you won the Super Bowl is a regression. So the pressure to get it done now this year, it's even more than it was in the year we just had. And we all know what suffocating, thing that was. I think that they have to fully invest in players that are on the field, not insurance policies. And Penix would be an insurance policy. And I also think you're also maybe barking up a wrong tree with a rookie insurance policy as a backup quarterback. So I don't think that that's going to happen. Protecting a quarterback, that needs to happen better. There are a couple of tackles here in free agency that are going to be high priced. Jonah Williams in Cincinnati and Trent Brown with the Patriots. Obviously, Trent Brown was a 49er many years ago. They didn't like his attitude, shall we just say. He was coming back from injury. It was Garoppolo's first ever start, and he was like, "Nah, I'm good. I'm not getting out there. I'm not gonna." And that really rubbed the Niners the wrong way. I heard he was late for an airplane a couple times too. Like they couldn't get rid of Trent Brown fast enough. Might they be interested in getting back into the Trent Brown business now that he's a little bit more mature and a better player?
It's a good question. I mean, I think, he was trending towards 400 pounds in his last Niner visit. He's only 30, so he's interesting. Jonah Williams, you mentioned, only 26. Typically, though, I mean, I think, you got to learn your lesson a little bit from, teams there's an offensive line shortage in the NFL. Teams do not part ways with really good, high achieving offensive tackles. So I would say that, if you want to go into free agency and improve your offensive line, go after one of the guards and then use the draft to go after one of the tackles. Because if you go after guards and you look at the list of guards available, now you've got some guys that are interesting. Kevin Zeitler from the Ravens is an older player, but he's tough as hell. And then there's guys down the list. I mean, I had Nick Allegretti from the Chiefs. The Niners showed interest in him last year. I think he would be a great option for them. He's smart. He's tough. He's got good pedigree. I'm a big fan of Damian Lewis from Seattle by way of LSU. He's out there and available, I believe. And there's a couple others that are interesting. Sadiq Charles from Washington's a really young offensive guard. He's out there. He's available. So Jonah Jackson, if you want to take him away from the Lions, he's out there. He's available. There's a couple others. I mean, but
how about this?
I would say a guard in free agency.
The single
Laken
best
Tomlinson.
They should have never let him go. He was their best offensive lineman for years. He really, really was. I love Laken Tomlinson. The single best solution, I think, for the 49ers at guard is to just see Burford take that step forward this offseason. I mean, it's one of those positions where if you can handle it without spending much money on it, that's what everyone wants to do. And I think that they got it handled if Burford just has a hell of an offseason, gets better. I mean, that to me is the solution there. They need to be looking tackle. They have to be looking right tackle, and they got to start thinking about who takes over for Trent Williams. You got to expect his availability for a 17-game schedule to be a little in doubt at this age of his career, this time in his career. So I think they need a big-time tackle, either through the draft or through free agency. And again, I don't know if Jonah Williams or Trent Brown are now big-time tackles, but they're the best available in this upcoming free agent class.
I think it's one of the best offensive tackle drafts I've seen in a long time. I would take two of them. I would take maybe a day one, definitely a day two tackle, and then I would take another one as well that I like. I mean, and it's a good group. I mean, Joe Alt, I think, is going to be awesome. The Penn State kid, Fashanu, is tremendous.
You're talking about two top 10 picks, though.
Yeah, those guys are top 10. The Niners have met with Talieisi Fuaga and J.C. Latham, who are supposed to go from 10 to 20. So that's interesting. Why are they doing that? Or do they anticipate having a high pick? Then there's Amarius Mims, Jordan Morgan, Tyler Guyton, Kingsley Sumatea, Patrick Paul. I mean, it's a good list. But then you get down into like round 2, round 3, Javon Foster from Missouri, Christian Jones from Texas, Ladarius Henderson from Michigan, Gottlieb Ayadesi from Maryland, and Garrett Greenfield. I'm a huge Garrett Greenfield fan from South Dakota State. There's some good tackles.
How did you become a huge Garrett Greenfield from South Dakota State fan? How did you sign up for that fandom?
Well, because I just started watching their running back Isaiah Davis, and he's running behind Mason McCormick, the right guard, and Garrett Greenfield, the right tackle. And then I watched McCormick and Greenfield at the combine, and both those guys worked out like blue chippers. I mean, they're coming from an FCS type program, and you're sitting there going, well, can they match up physically? And McCormick and Greenfield both looked awesome physically. And then when you watch some of their film, I thought those two linemen played off of each other incredibly well. If I were the Niners, I'd find a way to get 2 or 3 offensive linemen in this draft, and one of them would be Garrett Greenfield, and the other would be Mason McCormick both from South Dakota State. I mean, these guys, McCormick's 6'5", 315, super athletic, tough as hell, and Greenfield is maybe 310, but he's just a brawler. And if you watch the right side, I mean, they ran this back Isaiah Davis off that right side, and these guys just absolutely paved the major lanes for him. So, offensive line's about continuity,
right?
And if you could get McCormick and Greenfield in the same draft, you may be able to get 2 guys that are used to playing with one another and can, really play off of each other exceptionally well. So there's some good value there. And then the Michigan captain is Trevor Keegan, and he's thought to go in like the 7th round, at 6'6", 325 pounds, and he's tough as hell. So there's a good tackle draft for sure. And guards.
Is it Jackrabbits? South Dakota State Jackrabbits?
I've been watching me some Jackrabbit.
Big Jackrabbit guy.
I could in one of my mock drafts, I had 3 Jackrabbits come into the Niners.
Dude, who's grinding Jackrabbit tape like Larry Krueger? The answer is nobody. That's why you got to like and subscribe. It's Wake Up with Damon and Larry. Thank you for being with us here this Friday morning. This show.
Don't tell me I don't know Jack.
Right? This show is coming to you. We got it.
I'll be here all week.
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Not all week. We're here 3 days a week. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for Wake Up, and we hope you join us next week. Obviously, we're going to have big shows, with it being Monday, you can start negotiating with free agents. Wednesday, you can start signing them. And Friday, we will know the lay of the land and have a much bigger focus on what the hell just happened in the first week of NFL free agency. Stephon Gilmore. Lions are interested, apparently. Exiting Dallas, a cornerback. Do you think the 49ers are going to be looking corner? Would they be looking for older, veteran, experienced corner like Stephon Gilmore would be?
I think he's too long in the tooth, to be honest. I think they're definitely looking for a corner. The name that I think makes a lot of sense for the 49ers is Darius Williams, who played for Jacksonville this last year. He's got experience playing for the Rams and obviously for the new Niner assistant head coach. He's coming off a really good year with Jacksonville where he played all 17 games. You know, he's going into his age 31 season, but man, Darius Williams is really aggressive. I think Darius Williams is playing at a much higher level than Gilmore right now. Gilmore's also almost 34. I just think that's ancient in the NFL.
Especially a corner.
His injuries are starting to mount. To me, the other guy that's really exciting is Kenny Moore, who played for Indianapolis, because he was maybe one of the best slot corners in the league. And you could move Demo outside and play Kenny inside, and now you've got a very key position taken care of. So that's the guy that, and there's a few more people on the list that intrigue me, but I'd steer clear of the big names, which is J.C. Jackson, Adoree Jackson, Kendall Fuller, Stephon Gilmore, Michael Davis. Excuse me. I would steer clear of those guys. The guys I like would be the two guys I named, and Kenny Moore especially. If you go further down the list, Rock Ya-Sin, Sean Bunting, Noah Igbenogany. I just like saying that name, but I also like him as a player. That's the list for me. And there's a couple more guys down the list that I kind of like. I kind of like Rashad Fenton, who started with the Chiefs and has moved around a little bit. I think he's a pretty good corner. But it's once again, this is another spot. Amik Robertson's not terrible, coming off the Raiders. This is another spot. Corners and offensive linemen. If you have a good one, man, you keep that guy in house. You don't let him get out. And so when you look at the free agent market, you got to be really skeptical about the quality that lies within there.
Well, and remember, just because somebody had a big name doesn't mean they're still playing up to that big name. And that brings us to I just saw it in the last 24, 48 hours, could be some interest creeping out between the 49ers and wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. Odell Beckham Jr. for a minute there was the best wide receiver in all of football. That minute has long since passed. Odell Beckham Jr. hasn't seen 1,000 yards since 2019. He's often hurt. I think he's a guy who became too famous for the good of his own career, Larry. You know, when you start spotting NFL players at Parisian fashion weeks, I'm not saying that's a character flaw, but it is a career red flag. And I think Odell of all the wide receivers in football, he's most likely to appear in a Jay-Z video. Like, I'll give you that. There was a moment in time where he was, the ultra cool NFL player that, models and rappers wanted to party with. And I think that the taste of fame maybe had him take his foot off the pedal of the grind that you need to be on to be successful in the NFL. And again, he hasn't seen 1,000 receiving yards since 2019. So many seasons removed from his last great season. And this year, I mean, if you threw him the ball, he had just as much chance to drop it as catch it. He had 35 catches on 64 targets for 565 yards and 3 touchdowns with the Baltimore Ravens. At what price would you be interested in Odell Beckham Jr.? And at what price would you definitely not be interested at all?
I'm not interested. He's not a good fit for the 49ers. I mean,
He does
what
not
would be
block downfield.
Well, it's not even about that. I mean, if you're getting Odell Beckham, you're getting him because you have a young group of raw receivers who don't catch the ball but have great speed. And you're looking for a red zone veteran who's got sticky hands and will run great routes, and you can just throw him the ball and he'll make big catches in the red zone. He's almost like a red zone specialist. But this guy's going on age 32. He made $15 million this last year. That report that you said was out there, that's not a report. That's Josina Anderson saying, here, I've talked to Odell. Here are the places he would like to play. Yeah, I don't doubt it. He would love to play in Shanahan's offense. But I mean, think about it. If he's a red zone specialist, if you get to the red zone next year and you don't throw it to 28 million Debo or 28 million a year, Ayuk, you're wrong. I mean, you're already wrong. And so I don't want another guy there. The Niners need a receiver, but they need a complimentary guy. They need that speed guy like Tyler Harrell in the draft or Danny Gray. And, they need some. Kyle Shanahan is a former receiver. He values separation. Odell Beckham gets no separation anymore. The two guys that I could see being Niners on here that do get separation would be like Calvin Ridley or like Laviska Shenault, who's a really, is he a running back? Is he a receiver? He's kind of like a Debo type. He's only 25. He's trending upward. Even Chase Claypool, who's, he's younger, bigger, kind of almost like a tight end. Maybe you could use him as a flexed out tight end if that was your plan. Those are the three guys I could see them. I mean, if there's one receiver that kind of fits their need, I mean, Jalen Guyton or somebody who really can run well. I mean, it's got to be somebody who runs exceptionally well, because that's what they need. They need one guy to create space for Debo, Kittle, and Ayuk, and Juwan if Juwan's coming back. And they really don't need a receiver, period, because they have such depth at that spot, and it's an amazing draft for receivers. So I'd bet almost anything that Odell Beckham will not be a Niner.
I'm paging Danny Gray. Danny Gray, biggest opportunity of your career is officially tapping you on your shoulder right here, right now. Could be a big year for you, young man. We've heard about you. We'd like to actually maybe see you in 2024. Thanks for seeing us here on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Thank you so very, very much. A little bit of news to go over here, Larry, and then we'll kick around what happened to the Golden State Warriors last night for our final moments of this show. But, before we get to that, the 49ers are going to surprise us by cutting whom? There's an awful lot of people in this chat this morning saying it's time to say goodbye to Arik Armstead. There's a price point where I would agree with that on some level. He's also at that age where the fall off could happen at any moment, and it could happen rapidly. I like Arik Armstead as a player. He's been a career Niner. He's been a very good Niner. He's been a little bit of an underrated Niner. He's steady. He's always out there when not hurt and playing pretty decently. He really is. But, for how much longer will we be seeing Arik Armstead? And if you need interior line play, can you let him walk away?
Yeah, I know he's a chic name to throw out there because he's an older guy making a grip of cash, coming off an injury season. He doesn't have that much football ahead. But, man, that would be a ballsy move because Chase Young, Cleveland Farrell, Kevin Givens, Javon Kinlaw, Randy Gregory, Sebastian Joseph Day. You have 6 D-line free agents. If Arik Armstead walks out that door, you're looking at Kalia Davis, Spencer Wagee, T.Y. McGill, So you better, that's fine if Eric Armstead's walking out the door, if Chris Jones is walking in. That's fine if Eric Armstead's walking out the door and Christian Wilkins is coming in.
Right.
Outside of that, I don't know. I would say Juszczyk would be the guy for me. Why? Because I think this is the year where you can find a couple of different guys in the draft who are not Juszczyk, but could be, Juszczyk replacements. And I think, you may even have one on the roster right now in Braden Willis. So I just think Juszczyk becomes a luxury that you can't afford to have. So if you said to me veterans that could get cut, I would say Kyle Juszczyk and maybe Jake Brendel on the offensive side.
The Bears gave corner Jalen Johnson 4 years, $76 million, 54 guaranteed. That was a player that, a lot of Niner fans were attaching to the Niners at last year's trade deadline. They would have liked to have seen a swing for him. He's now officially off the board. Drew Tranquill, he resigns with Kansas City. The linebacker, 3 years, $19 million. Good value out of that guy. He was the matchup that was supposed to be exploited in the Super Bowl, was not exploited. So he gets paid and he stays. Russell Wilson, Larry. We're going to hear an awful lot about Russell Wilson in the coming days, hours, weeks here. It's Russell Wilson's on the move. And Russell Wilson at premium prices in Denver was a disaster. Russell Wilson on a veteran minimum is a bargain. The Pittsburgh Steelers and the New York Giants are the two teams being most attached to Russell Wilson this morning. The Steelers have got a never-ending quarterback headache. The New York Giants feel like they're in that same situation. I think the Giants should draft and just bite the bullet with one more year of Daniel Jones. I could see Russell Wilson to the Steelers.
He was spotted this morning catching a flight to Pittsburgh from Newark. So Ian Rappaport tweeting that out. There's some guy in New Jersey who's like, hey, Russell Wilson's going to Pittsburgh. But yeah, I think he's going to wind up in Pittsburgh. I think, nothing lasts forever. Mike Tomlin, is a very good NFL coach, but he's starting to feel the pressure to win some playoff games. And the Steelers went with Kenny Pickett. It didn't look like it worked out. They tried Mason Rudolph, they tried Trubisky. Yeah, I think Russell's headed to Pittsburgh. I think it makes sense too.
I think it does.
I think Russell's still got something left.
I do too. They're absolutely just the city of Pittsburgh. If he wins, they'll tolerate him. If he doesn't, they're going to hate him. All that positivity and the sunshine and Mr. Unlimited, look at me, aren't I a social media darling? Like, they will skin him alive in Pittsburgh trying to do that bullshit. I'm just going to tell you right now,
they got a good team there. They got to get him. They got to get another runner. I mean, I love Najee, but Najee's more of a power back. They got to get that running game going.
Get an explosion. They need explosion in that running game.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe they've got some guys there. I mean, I like McFarland. I like their number 2 back from last year. What's his name? Jalen Daniels or whatever. He's not bad. I mean, they've got a couple of backs, but they need a speed back. I mean, they could really use a dynamic runner. If they had a dynamic runner, we know they got a good defense. Jalen Warren is his name. So they have Najee and Jalen Warren, and Jack Coletto at fullback. But I mean, they could use another back. I'm not an Aaron Shempkin, Alfonso Graham, or Godwin Igwebuike fan. So,
is it any relation to Donald Igwebuike, former punter?
I think so. I think it's
Igwebuike? It's got to be. You don't see a lot of Igwebuikes.
And this guy's good too as a special teamer. Good return guy. The Niners had him for a while, Igwebuike, but and he's explosive as a returner. But they need a speed back, and they need to start running the ball. And then bring in Russell, do a little play action. I mean, Pickens is a nice receiver. There's some talk they may trade Deontay Johnson, but they've got some other receivers there. So I think Pittsburgh is they got to get better play at quarterback. They got to get a little bit more dynamic offensively, but they're not that far away. And I think they'll make the moves. And I think I could see Russell there for sure.
I see you've starred a couple of chats, a few supers. Larry, what do we got as we wrap up things here this morning?
We got Kyle Bentz, who says draft defense, build the O-line through free agency.
Again, hard to build O-line through free agency because good O-linemen don't hit free agency.
Yeah. I mean, Trent Brown would be a really nice right tackle stopgap, and I love Damian Lewis and some of the Allegretti. I could see O-line through free agency, but it's going to be hard to find that tackle. There's like one guy out there, maybe two. If you can get that guy, great. But I think this is definitely the year you have to draft at least one, maybe two offensive linemen, probably at least one tackle, maybe two.
Yeah.
And I think there's some really good prospects out there. So we got this one from Joseph Ernberg. New haircut, Larry, looking good. Happy Friday. Friday, I got the ears, got my one with the fade.
What are you like an every 4 week guy?
Yeah, like every 3.5, 4 weeks, sometimes 5 or 6 if I'm feeling it. But I like that kind of high and tight feel on my neck as far as, I don't like feeling like kind of, it's funny because I'm coaching Little League now and I'll put on the hat and it really looks like I've just got no hair at all because I've got a high fade with white walls. But yeah, every 3-4 weeks I like to get it trimmed.
There you go. Keep it clean. Keep it clean. We're keeping it tight. You keep it clean, Larry.
That's right. Keeping it tight, keeping it clean. DiMaggio's, Walnut Creek. James Foster says 49ers already have to pay Eric Armstead $22 million from 2025, 26, and 27 when he's not even on the roster. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, they've already restructured him once. And usually you don't restructure, veteran players that you're trying to move away from. Usually it's a young player. So I've heard a lot of people say, well, just restructure him. Well, it's not quite that easy. You're going to wind up with a big dead cap hit somewhere in the future. But I'll say this too, as somebody who goes in the locker room and talks to the players, if you move Eric Armstead off this roster, you sure as hell better have an upgrade. The next guy coming in better be damn good because Eric Armstead is a very effective player. He's a smart player. He's a respected player. He's a leader in the room. You're going to lose a lot when Eric Armstead walks out of that room. He is definitely the adult in the room. He's definitely one of the alphas on the team. So you're losing a lot. If you lose him, you better gain a lot in whatever you're getting.
Well, Larry, let me tell you who's about to lose a lot if you don't have him. That's the Golden State Warriors if they're going to be missing Steph Curry for any significant time, just when they got totally healthy. Just when they impressed us all with a 30-point win over the Milwaukee Bucks, Steph Curry in a failed attempt to keep a good thing going against the Chicago Bulls last night. That was a bad loss compounded by the fact Steph Curry rolled his ankle, didn't come down on anyone's foot, was trying to put the brakes on a layup and just rolled his own ankle, and immediately you knew something was wrong. He knew something was wrong. He walked off the court immediately, and that's bad for ball. There's no doubt about that. Steph Curry rolled ankle. It sounded like Klay Thompson and those who weren't coming out with any sort of proclamation or evaluation of how bad of a severe ankle roll it really is. It didn't sound like this is going to be, and Steph will be back by Saturday for the San Antonio Spurs. This sounds like he might miss, I don't know, the upcoming road trip.
What's your fear? They're going to miss the play-in tournament? I mean, right now, I would say, aren't they 5 clear of the next best team in the play-in?
Well, they're sitting at 9 right now. They're sitting at 9,
but aren't they? Aren't the Lakers, who are now, they're tied with the Lakers? They're 1 percentage point ahead. So it's 33-29 Golden State, 34-30 Lakers. They're both 10.5 behind Minnesota. They're both Golden State in the 9 seed, Lakers in the 10. But like if you look at Utah, so they're 10.5 behind Minnesota. Utah's 16 back. So I mean they're clear. They're gonna be in the play-in. It's just a matter of can they get there? The goal was to get to 6 and avoid the play-in. And I don't know that they can get to 6 and avoid the play-in. They're 3.5 games behind Phoenix for that, and I don't see. I mean, all this talk. I mean, I'm enjoying the Warriors this year, but let's say it for what it is. They're not going anywhere. I mean, they're not beating the Denver Nuggets. I mean, so
the Warriors are at the end of whatever they are. They're not about to start something new.
What are we talking about? Pajemski with that missed left layup last night. That
hurt. Smoked it. That really hurt. That would have had that tied game. He had
he couldn't believe it either.
Yeah, he has to wear that.
He just, there was no English there was no spin. You got to spin the ball a little bit to get it go the other way. But
you make that layup. You make that layup.
Oh, I mean, I'm making that thing every time. I mean, are you kidding me? Like, a young Larry Krueger spinning that thing left and right in. No, but Trace Jackson Davis and the bench unit was coming together. Clay had 25 last night. They've got an exceptionally deep bench, and I mean, they obviously need Steph to be healthy. That's not saying anything, and yet Steph has not played well at times in the last couple of weeks. He had a 0 from 3 the other night. He was 3 of 12 last night. So they're kind of trying to find themselves a little bit, but it's the end. It's the end for Golden State.
If Steph has to miss significant time, I'm starting Chris Paul. I'm taking Klay Thompson off the bench. I'm putting him back in the starting lineup. Pajemski and Moody would be my backup backcourt.
See, obviously you're going to miss Steph dramatically, but this is a deep basketball team now. I mean, you can start Chris Paul in Steph's place, and Chris Paul's going to play well. And then you can make do on the bench, with some combination of Moody and Peyton and Klay, and they've got the numbers. If anything, Steve walks into every game challenged to get, everybody playing time. So, but I mean, obviously you don't want to lose Steph Curry. I mean, Curry is the man and still is, clearly he's a force of nature. You can see the coverage, the defense tilting towards him at all times he's on the floor, and appropriately so. So, I mean, they just got to get everybody in the, Wiggins and his off-field stuff, Green and his temper. Kuminga's got to feel it. He had 19 and 10 last night. He's playing well. Pajemski, they got to make sure him and Trace Jackson Davis don't run into that rookie wall. Klay, they just got to make sure that he's feeling good. Or if he's not feeling good, he doesn't shoot him out of it. And then, they got to find some minutes. I mean, last night
it's amazing when you talk about all the guys that need to step up in Curry's absence. Like Andrew Wiggins' name never even comes up. There's no player whose career or work I enjoy less than Andrew Wiggins. He's just such a Canadian. There's just no other way to say it. He's such a Canadian. Here it is.
He just kind of coasts.
Yeah, absolutely. He does. He is cool, cashing checks and not wringing necks. You know what I mean? Like he's just, I don't
it's
like. It's
hard to motivate somebody when you give them hundreds of millions of dollars and, and they can just kind of he looks like he's just getting a workout at the Y.
Right.
He's getting up and down. He's the most frustrating player if you really want to see production, because man, he'll put it on the deck and go to the hole and blow by somebody, and you'll be like, wow, look at that.
Right.
That guy's like 6'8", and he's willowy. He can put it on the deck and get to the hole and finish, and you're like, man, this guy could do this at will. And then he doesn't do it again like the rest of the game.
Right. When he flashes, you go, oh my God. And then he just chooses to not do that for another 3-game stretch. And it's just.
He's got to be dialed in the right spot mentally. I mean, give you an example. When they won the title, the last title they won, Andrew Wiggins was dialed in as a rebounder. Last night he played 15 minutes. He grabbed 1 rebound.
Yeah. You know what my theory is that Andrew Wiggins did not pick the week of the NBA finals to play great basketball. That week just happened to pick him. Like, when you're that talented, sometimes it really does just all come together. And I don't think he did anything different. It just all happened to come together, and good for the Warriors. It helped them win a championship. But they got okey-doked when they turned around and said, yeah, let's reinvest in that guy. It should have been a walk-away moment at that moment. I really believe it, because I like dogs. He is no dog. I would rather lose games with Moody playing his dick off than Andrew Wiggins jogging in between the free throw lines. Not interested. Anyway, Larry, I think it's safe to say we have now what is simply the most efficient, most dominant morning show in Bay Area sports history. And as now the label of morning show, because that's, I guess, what we are, at least 3 days a week now, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, wake up. Yesterday was National Cereal Day. What's your favorite cereal?
It's funny.
You want to get to the answer right. Like you think you just you throw it out there, and then you realize that there's a lot of identity politics played here. And if you get this wrong, you're going to get ripped. So, Larry, what is your favorite?
Well, I mean, I live with a health food nut. So I bought Cinnamon Toast Crunch from Costco, double bagged. 2 days later, it had been returned to Costco.
Oh my God.
My wife returned.
Look, Amy.
She returned Cinnamon Toast Crunch. And then she lectured me about how I'm just leading our kids towards a life of
your kids are teenagers or better. Like you're not influencing your child's life with cereal choices at this age anymore, right? So there's that, Amy. And here's another thing, and I would tell this because
she returned Cinnamon Toast Crunch because she said we were on the road to diabetes.
Larry, I
don't even know what diabetes is.
I will go to war for Cinnamon Toast Crunch. It is the greatest cereal of all time. That is my favorite cereal. The fact that you are attracted to it too, it just means it's why you and I got the chemistry.
Reference says I'm whipped.
I would say this.
Be whipped 25 years into marriage? I don't know.
Yeah. No, Larry's not whipped. He's just married at this point. You cease being a girlfriend can whip you. A marriage is a deal that you make to be whipped a little bit. But I would suggest that you find whatever healthy cereal she deems healthy and then really do a back-of-the-box nutritional value comparison to Cinnamon Toast Crunch. It's not that bad. It's not freaking Lucky Charms with marshmallows in it. Like, it's bad, but it's not that bad. So
it's not Fruit Loops, right?
And I would urge you to be less harsh with Larry's cereal choices. The man needs to do all this content, and Cinnamon Toast Crunch is the greatest cereal ever invented. That is my number one draft pick in the all-time cereal draft. So
and then I get into moods too. Like growing up in my house, we had grapefruit for breakfast with like toast and some cereal. And the two cereals that we usually had in-house were Cheerios, but Cheerios are really strong, man. It's really, I don't know. It's strong. And then, Honey Nut Cheerios for a while. And then Raisin Bran. And so I kind of like Raisin Bran. But I don't eat a lot of cereal. I gotta be honest. I'm much more, I'd rather cut up like 2 oranges and have like a bagel with some butter on it. And, that's it. I'm off and rolling.
There we go.
But Cinnamon Toast Crunch is, come on, man. It's a phenomenal cereal.
We agree on so much.
It's a really good cereal.
I used to get up and I would say, Tate, what you want for breakfast? And say, this is Cinnamon Toast Crunch. And I'd go back to the Miata and I would keep a little Cinnamon Toast Crunch in the trunk for Tate. And it was delicious.
Damon Lowry, I agree with Amy. I'm a flat bellied guy.
I'm Trent, but you can't stay lean like this Trent bulky body stays lean eating that garbage. And I tell those guys who are rehabbing their ACLs, if you had eaten breakfast like good old Trent bulky, you know, I don't even a grapefruit is not healthy enough for me. I'm looking at a series of vitamins with some water, and then I'll tell Coach Doug Peterson, hey, let's get Trevor doing his thing. And it's not that I can't draft worth a damn. It's that we have coaches that can't coach my draft picks. And that's really what it's about, Damon Lowry. There's no question that, Trent Baalke is eating healthy in the morning out here.
Everyone, have yourself a great weekend. Thank you so much for spending another one of your days with us here on Wake Up. We'll be back at it 8:30 a.m. Monday morning here on the West Coast, and it will be a week of free agency that Larry and I will help you kick off. So thank you very much for tuning in. And again, have a great weekend and make careful cereal choices as you move through your life.
Getting the meat cheese, go through the list. Krueger's so cute. He wants DJ Jones back. He doesn't want to move off Eric Armstead, but he wants DJ Jones. And I talked about it with Tate, and we had the meat cheese, and it was extra garlic, and I got the lemon pepper wings. And I won't go super spicy. I can't go atomic, but I will go spicy. I don't. You think I can't go spicy? I can go spicy. I can do it in the Miata, but I'm always worried about the upholstery. I've got a lot of concerns about my upholstery.